Welcome to another deep dive. You know how this works. We take some really fascinating source material, really dig in and pull out the most interesting stuff, the stuff that you can actually use to think about your own life. And today we're tackling something pretty special, the heart of Aikido. And we're not talking just like throwing people around and cool moves. We're going deeper. We've got Journeying to the Heart of Aikido by Motomichi Anno Sensei. And this book is not just about techniques. It gets into like the core principles and Anno Sensei's experience with, well, the founder himself, Morihei Ueshiba, O-Sensei.
Yeah, the book is amazing. I mean, you really get this feeling like you're right there with Anno Sensei, absorbing the teachings directly from O-Sensei. It's like a window into Aikido's history, but not like a dusty history book. It's a living, breathing tradition.
Right. Like it's alive. And that's what we want to share with you today. A deeper understanding of what Aikido really means, like beyond the surface. Maybe even unlock some new ways of thinking about your own growth, your own path towards harmony. So jumping right in, O-Sensei, he has this really powerful statement right at the beginning. He says, Aiki is love. Aikido is the form and heart of Kami. Now, Kami, in this context, it's about that divine spirit, that universal energy.
Right. And Anno Sensei interprets this beautifully. He talks about Aikido creating a world where everything is connected and in harmony. It's not about fighting. It's about nurturing, cultivating harmony, love, and gratitude in everything we do, how we interact with each other, how we move through the world. The goal is to contribute to the world with that spirit.
Okay, so Anno Sensei, he didn't start out as like this naturally gifted athlete or anything. He actually tells this story about how he chose Aikido in arts college because he thought he'd be terrible at it.
I love that story. But like so many of us, he was drawn to that mind-body connection that you just don't find in a lot of other places. He was captivated by it from that very first class.
Totally. And he had this really powerful experience with Ki early on, Ki being that idea of mind and energy working together. He was practicing and focusing his mind, visualizing energy in his tanden, the lower abdomen, and he said he could feel it. His body became like stronger, more grounded, and he realized it wasn't just about muscles, it was about internal harmony too.
Yeah. He started to see the techniques as lessons, not just self-defense, but lessons in what the mind can do. His physical progress might have been slow at first, but that initial spark, that understanding, it kept him going. It's so inspiring.
Then in 1973, he moved to Tokyo, landed himself at the Hanbu Dojo, which he describes as being like a magical kingdom. He trained with instructors who learned directly from O-Sensei.
Wow, to be in that kind of environment with that level of skill and lineage all around, it must have been pretty intense.
Oh, it was intense. Hard tatami mats, constant throws, bruises everywhere. But amidst all that, he found this incredibly supportive community. Remember, he's a foreigner in Japan, navigating a whole new culture, and yet he felt this sense of connection.
It speaks volumes about the power of shared practice, that common ground, that dedication to Aikido. It can bridge cultural gaps like nothing else.
It really can. Now, part of Anno Sensei's journey led him to Kumano. This is O-Sensei's homeland. It's this incredibly sacred place, lush, mountainous, steeped in like ancient spiritual history. Think mountain ascetics, deep mystery, and a profound sense of the sacred.
It's crucial to understand this place, right? Because Kumano, with all its traditions, its history, it had a huge impact on O-Sensei and his development of Aikido.
Absolutely. And it's in Shingu, in Kumano, that he meets Michio Hikatsuchi Sensei. Now, Hikatsuchi Sensei was a close student of O-Sensei, a very powerful, charismatic figure. And get this, he invites Anno Sensei and one other student to become the first ever non-Japanese full-time students at the Kumano Juku Dojo.
Wow, the first. That's a huge honor, but also, I imagine, a lot of pressure.
For sure. And it wasn't easy. This was intense, shugyu, dedicated, continuous training. The philosophy was, don't let anything defeat you, not hardship, not the weather, not anything. It was about developing that inner strength that can't be touched by the outside world.
And Anno Sensei talks about Ukemi being this incredibly rigorous discipline. Ukemi is the art of receiving falls, but it's much more than that. He says that real shugyo, the true test, began when you were already exhausted and the teachers were still effortlessly tossing you around. You had to push through those limits to really grow.
Right. It's about testing those boundaries. And then there's the everyday challenge of just, being a foreigner, a gaijin in Shingu. He tells these funny stories about kids shouting gaijin and adults trying out their English textbook phrases.
Oh, I can just picture it. But despite those, I guess, sometimes awkward moments, he threw himself into learning Japanese. Dictionaries, deciphering notes. He even learned the local Shingu dialect, Shingu Ben, which was very close to how a sensei spoke. That dedication to understanding the language, it really shows his commitment to the culture.
It does. And he talks about the joy of discovering those spiritual terms that are so central to Aikido. Words like Zanshin, which is that continuous awareness, Beishizen, meaning great nature, and Tamashi, the spirit or soul. Each new word was like unlocking another level of understanding.
It's like learning a whole new way of seeing the world, isn't it? Each term adds another layer to the philosophy.
And get this, even while working at a paper plant and running his own dojo nearby, Anno Sensei still made time to train at the Kumano Juku Dojo. Talk about commitment.
Wow. That's hardcore dedication. He really prioritized his training. And he talks about this really powerful presence from the teachers there, Hikitsuchi Sensei, of course, but also Yana Sensei, Tojima Sensei. Each of them expressed Aikido in their own unique way, but it all existed in harmony. It's a beautiful reflection of that core Aikido principle, finding harmony within diversity.
Absolutely. And through it all, he felt himself becoming part of that Kumano Juku Dojo family, finding a real sense of purpose. Of course, being an American woman in Japanese society back then came with its own challenges. But she made Japan her second home, and when it was time to go back to the U.S. and start teaching in Santa Cruz, it was Anno Sensei who encouraged her to step up and share what she'd learned.
That's a really special part of the book, isn't it? That passing of the torch, that encouragement to share the art with the world.
Yeah, it is. And years later, the student had this incredible desire to bring Anno Sensei to Santa Cruz to see how Aikido was growing in the West. And despite his age, he made that journey. It led to this incredible connection, a real transmission of energy and knowledge between East and West.
It really speaks to the power of that teacher-student bond and this desire to see Aikido flourish. Anno Sensei, coming from that direct lineage of O-Sensei, he wasn't just teaching techniques, he was sharing the heart of Aikido. And he was clearly touched by the American students' dedication and enthusiasm.
Now, to really grasp Anno Sensei's journey, we have to go back even further. He was born in Onodani, a peaceful farming village in Kumano, surrounded by rice paddies, so connected to nature. But he also lived through World War II, experiencing real hardship.
Right. Those formative years, that connection to nature, the resilience he had to develop during the war, it all shapes his approach to life and ultimately to Aikido. He even shares a story about being scolded by his mother for not being kind. It stayed with him his whole life, that idea that kindness is fundamental. And it's so true, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. He was drawn to martial arts even as a kid, trying to practice judo during the war, even though resources were so scarce. But it wasn't until later, while working, that he first heard the word Aikido, just casually, in a barbershop of all places. He learned about this incredibly strong martial artist who lived in Shingu. It turned out to be O-Sensei. And to make the connection even stronger, the barber's sister had married Mikio Hikitsuchi. It's like fate, right?
Totally. You can't make that kind of stuff up. That's amazing.
Then, life threw him a curveball. He had a scooter accident and seriously injured his neck. Couldn't move his arms for months, but as soon as he could, he went back to training without the use of his arms.
That's incredible. That's some serious dedication. He didn't let anything stop him.
He had to. His commitment was so strong.
Yeah.
And it forced him to rely on different aspects of Aikido. It probably even helped him develop that relaxed, natural posture he was known for.
I can see that. It forced him to go deeper, to understand movement in a whole new way.
So the Kumano region, it has these three incredibly sacred grand shrines, Hongu, Nachi, and Hayatama in Shingu. And O-Sensei was just drawn to this area. He established his dojo in Shingu near the Hayatama shrine. It's clear this land held deep spiritual significance for him.
These shrines, they represent something really ancient. That primordial connection to nature, to kami, O-Sensei's connection to this place, it's woven into the fabric of Aikido.
Totally. And the way people describe O-Sensei's Aikido, it's almost mystical. They talk about his movements being effortless, like he was connected to another realm entirely. When he'd explain technique, he'd emphasize the role of kami rather than just, the physical mechanics. Some even said that trying to move him was like pushing on emptiness.
It's like he transcended the physical. He was tapping into something deeper, that spiritual energy that flows through everything.
Exactly. And he actually encouraged his students to study the Kojiki, which is this ancient collection of Japanese myths and legends, to really understand Aikido. He wanted them to embody those deeper teachings. In his own teaching style, it wasn't your typical step-by-step instruction. It was more about observation, lectures on spiritual matters, brief demonstrations, and then letting the students figure it out.
It sounds like he was really trying to get them to think differently, to move beyond the limitations of purely physical training.
Yeah, exactly. And O-Sensei also observed that O-Sensei was, in his everyday life, totally present. There were no openings, no suki in his demeanor. He taught by example. embodying those principles in every moment. And his technique was always evolving. There are stories about how in his later years, people would fall just by being near him as he walked.
Wow. It's like his mere presence was a manifestation of Aikido principles. He was living it completely.
Anno Sensei had this beautiful metaphor about Aikido. The body is the wax of a candle, the heart is the wick, and Aikido is the flame. Both the physical and the spiritual are essential for that flame to burn bright.
I love that metaphor. It's so clear. You can't have one without the other. It's about integrating both aspects to really shine.
Right. And the goal of Aikido, it's not just about mastering techniques. It's about this journey towards great love, great harmony. Anno Sensei cautions against getting too caught up in looking good, performing perfectly. It's about cultivating a compassionate heart, a beautiful heart.
O-Sensei really stressed the importance of self-reflection, didn't he? He wanted his students to be constantly learning and growing on all levels. Spiritual, intellectual, moral, and physical.
He did. It's about that continuous striving for improvement. And a big part of that is remembering those fundamentals, harmony, love, and gratitude. Without those, it's easy to slip back into that, strong versus weak mindset, which leads to conflict.
Exactly. The techniques can be powerful, but without the right heart, they can be misused.
Anno Sensei talks about the word okage-sama, which means it is thanks to you. It's more than just saying thank you, though. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, our gratitude towards nature, towards kami. O-Sensei taught that standing on the floating bridge of heaven is not just a physical thing, it's a state of being, of deep gratitude.
Right. It's that feeling of being connected to everything, appreciating all that supports us.
Absolutely. O-Sensei had this 5-step process for self-reflection. Karemiru, which is about looking back at yourself. Hajiru, feeling shame for your shortcomings. Kuru, experiencing regret. Wasoru, having that awe or fear of straying from the path. And Satoru, reaching understanding, wisdom. Anno Sensei says that this process is crucial for anyone, not just in Aikido.
It's a roadmap for personal growth, a way to keep ourselves in check and continue evolving.
Cultivating the spirit, tamashi, is also central to Aikido. Anno Sensei talks about 3 layers of the self: the intellect, the heart, and the spirit. He says that the real challenge is to fully absorb O-Sensei's teachings into your very spirit.
So it's not just head knowledge, it's about making those teachings a part of who you are at the deepest level.
Yes, and O-Sensei often spoke about Shinzen-bai, truth, goodness, and beauty. He encouraged his students to polish themselves like a gem, to become a source of light for everyone, to embody those qualities, to align themselves with the heart of kami.
That's a beautiful aspiration, isn't it? To strive to be that source of light in the world.
To become like O-Sensei, who embodies truth, goodness, and beauty, and ultimately unity with kami. And to get there, it takes dedication, hard training, and a deep engagement with those spiritual teachings. You need both.
Right. It's that integration of the physical and the spiritual that makes Aikido so powerful.
Harmony and good relationships. That's the ultimate goal of Aikido. O-Sensei said it clearly. Study the heart more than technique. Aikido is love, AI. It's about protecting and cherishing all things. And a big part of that is learning to win over yourself, not defeating others. It's about making the right choices, training yourself to move in the right direction.
He called that self-victory, right? It's about conquering your own inner demons, not the person across from you.
Exactly. And doing that with a Sanao heart, a heart that's open, clear, unbiased. Anno Sensei describes the Sunao heart as pure, innocent, completely transparent. That's what allows for true connection. And real confidence, he says, comes from this practice, from the ability to love more fully. It's not about ego or strength.
That's such a powerful message, and it makes so much sense. The more we practice, the more we connect, the more confident we become in our ability to love.
Anno Sensei also talks about how important it is to be mindful of how we use our words, because we only have one mouth. But we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 2 nostrils for taking in the good in the world.
He uses the analogy of turning a tea bowl to see it from all sides. It's about looking deeply, understanding different perspectives.
He really encourages that deep, multifaceted approach. And, of course, the importance of continuous training. He says, train, 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 until you have a natural stance, natural form, and natural joy.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
It is. It never really ends. He also talks about those 3 things to eliminate. Muri, which is strain, muda, wastefulness, and mura, inconsistency. This isn't just for technique. It's about aligning with the natural world. And he says that the practice goes way beyond achieving ranks. It's about that desire to be of service to others.
O-Sensei's approach to teaching was always changing too, wasn't it? He moved away from that attack and block mentality to something more proactive, seeking unity with others.
Exactly. He said that technique is born anew every day. You have to constantly adapt. It's about being present, being receptive, having that Sunao heart. And that's something Anno Sensei emphasizes a lot, that open, flexible mindset.
It's about staying open to learning, no matter how experienced you become.
Anno Sensei describes this process of turning the body, turning the mind. It's about using movement, like proper hip movement and posture, to actually refine your spirit. The goal is to become completely flexible, balanced, both mentally and physically, to become one with your partner.
And he talks about looking upward, not literally, but spiritually, cultivating that feeling of uplifting the spirit. He says it's like a flower reaching towards the sun.
And when you're working with a partner who's tense or afraid, he says, take the initiative. Approach them with an open, welcoming energy. He also emphasizes the importance of practicing slowly, deliberately. Like calligraphy, you have to take the time to refine each movement.
It's about building a solid foundation, not rushing through the motions.
Exactly. He talks about developing that feeling of the spinning circle. It's about creating that rotational energy to throw your partner, but you have to connect with them first.
And he says that ki can extend beyond our physical reach. We can learn to send energy and breath expansively, to perceive with our spirit, which goes beyond physical sight. It's about that deeper connection.
Anno Sensei stresses that sometimes feeling frustrated or discouraged is actually a good sign. It means you're pushing yourself, trying to reach that next level.
It's all part of the process, right? We learn through those challenges.
Absolutely. And he reminds us that even a small light can be powerful. It's about the sincerity, the intention behind the technique. It's not about ego or winning. It's about aligning with the principles of nature.
O-Sensei talked about forging that power of attraction with your partner before you even make physical contact. It's about that connection of harmony and love.
Right. And about mutually raising each other's level. It's not a competition. Anno Sensei talks about O-Sensei's observation that sometimes even high-ranking black belts didn't truly understand Aikido.
Because it's about so much more than just the physical techniques. It's about that underlying spirit, that commitment to world harmony and love.
Exactly. And that's a journey that continues throughout our lives. It's about constantly deepening our understanding, going beyond the surface.
Striving to embody those principles in everything we do.
Anno Sensei explains that Aikido is misogi, purification. At first, he thought it was about ascetic practices, standing under waterfalls. But he came to understand it as a process of cleansing, of removing impurities to cultivate a pure heart. He even calls the dojo a washing machine for the body and mind.
It's about creating that inner clarity, that emptiness where we can see things more clearly.
He also talks about O-Sensei's idea that Aikido is the second opening of the stone door, Iwato Biraki. It's a reference to the ancient myth of Amaterasu, the sun goddess, coming out of a cave and bringing light back to the world through sacred dance.
Kagurumai, right?
Yes. And O-Sensei would actually perform these solo movements with weapons that were a form of kagurumai. It's like he was connecting with that ancient energy, offering it up in a sacred space.
Wow. So the movements themselves become like a prayer, a way to connect with the divine.
Then there's Shinkokyu, breath of kami. It's about connecting with the very breath of nature, breathing in that sacred essence of heaven and earth, what's called Maiose.
And visualizing the universe, feeling that connection to everything.
Exactly. And Anno Sensei explains that kami, in this context, refers to the entire universe. He talks about torifon, the rowing exercise, as this ancient practice, a foundation for Aikido movement and technique. It trains the body and the heart, improves breathing, develops that kokyu-yoku breath power.
And they chant "I-ho" during the exercise to cultivate that power, right?
But ultimately, it's about the breath itself. Inhaling to absorb energy, exhaling with love and gratitude. He also mentions furutama, spirit soothing, which involves chanting to calm the spirit, connecting with the kami of nature. And Chinkankishin, which is about quieting the spirit, returning to that state of unity with kami.
So many beautiful practices, all focused on connecting with that deeper spiritual energy.
And that state of unity, it's what the floating bridge of heaven represents, not just a physical stance, but a way of being. It's about being free, natural, connected to both heaven and earth. Aikido practice, he says, starts with that feeling of emptiness. And he talks about Narito, the Shinto prayers, which O-Sensei would chant at the beginning of class.
Those prayers, they embody Kototama, the spirit that dwells in words, infused with love and gratitude.
O-Sensei's words always had that quality of Kototama. And Aikido, he called it divine technique Shingi, of Ame no Murokumo Kukisamohara Ryo, a powerful dragon king kami. It's about moving in harmony with the very energy of nature.
So it's not just about learning the movements, it's about embodying that deeper connection, that flow.
Ultimately, everything is one. It's about returning to that age of kami, where spirit was primary. Kami is that true, good, beautiful essence of nature, the infinite power of creation. And when we understand that, it cultivates a deep gratitude. Anno Sensei talks about being caused to stand, tadasorete, recognizing that our very existence is supported by everything in the universe.
It's that sense of interconnectedness, of not being separate, but part of a much larger whole.
The dojo becomes a sacred space for cultivating that state of being on the floating bridge of heaven. It's about carrying that feeling with us out into the world.
And about bringing that awareness into leadership, leading with a heart of gratitude, a desire for everyone to be well, to live in harmony with nature.
O-Sensei said something really profound. No time or space in Aikido. It's about the importance of being present right here, right now. He believed Aikido could help prevent war.
By spreading its message of harmony, of love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he talked about developing the ability to really perceive, to listen, to understand other people's viewpoints, their intentions.
To see beyond the surface.
He even compared Aikido to farming. It's that constant nurturing, that focus on creating a strong foundation for growth. And he always emphasized that Aikido is for everyone. It doesn't matter how strong or talented you are. What matters is your effort, your heart.
Absolutely undefeatable, he called it. Zitai Fuhai.
He wanted people to question everything, to really think about the nature of existence, our interconnectedness.
To delve into those big questions that we often avoid.
And when it comes to conflict, Anno Sensei says it's about trying to understand the other person's perspective, not about defeating them. It's about learning from them. For teachers, he talks about eliminating those three things, Mori, Muda, Mira, but also teaching with Yasashiko, Hiroku, Fukaku, gently, expansively, deeply.
It's about going beyond just the techniques, into the heart of Aikido.
He said that O-Sensei valued sincerity above rank. It's about walking the walk, embodying those principles, not just talking about them. And it's about carrying that heart of Aikido into the world, spreading that message of love and harmony.
O-Sensei's teaching style was really unique, constantly evolving, challenging his students to adapt. And now we have all these different styles of Aikido, all stemming from his teachings.
But it's important to remember that core message, that focus on harmony and love. Anno Sensei believes that the most important thing is to spread the heart of Aikido, a concern for everyone's well-being, helping people understand each other, thinking about the whole world. And that journey, it's ongoing. We have to keep learning, keep striving to embody those principles.
It's a lifelong practice, isn't it, to cultivate that harmony within ourselves and extend it outwards.
It is. So we've covered a lot today, really delved into Anno Sensei's insights into O-Sensei's Aikido. It's about so much more than just physical techniques. It's about harmony, love, gratitude, self-reflection, and connecting to something greater than ourselves. And as you go about your day, we want you to consider this. What's your personal floating bridge of heaven? And how can you bring that heart of love, that Aikido spirit, into your own life?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
We'll see you next time.